Cheers everyone, Boomer here. Well, as you know, since I'm tragically marooned in this bizarro universe with little employment options other than to serve as the sidekick for that idiotic motherfucker, I'm now under orders to show you the arcade version of the game we are presenting here today. And that game is Bally Midway's 1981 classic, Gorf. Let me tell you chaps, life is 100% unfair. Back in my universe, I was supposed to be operating my new restaurant, Boomer's Bistro. Instead, I somehow get caught up with the late Professor Chadbird's turn back the hands of time botched up scheme, and before I know it, I'm transported here with this culinary wannabe motherfucker. Now, I'm basically the water boy for all his damn videos. You know, I've worked so hard all my life, and this is my reward. I'm feeling completely emotional and distraught right now, as if I was someone from Gen Z. Well, hold on, wait up folks, maybe get yourself some earplugs right about now, because here he comes.
Hey, everybody, Chef Steve is here, coming to you with another video. And in today's video, today, our first game, we're gonna do a review on this. It was a game I loved in the arcade. As a matter of fact, I owned the arcade machine once upon a time. Unfortunately, the daughter boards within the machine were having issues. I did actually replace them, and several of them actually went again. Already it's at the point it cost too much money to fix, and I did give up the Gorf machine. Sorry to say. However, there's no shortage of Gorf on the home systems. I have Gorf on the Commodore Vic-20. I have Gorf on the Commodore 64. It came out on other systems I don't have, like the Atari 5200, ColecoVision. But the Gorf version of on the Atari 2600, cringe! It gets no worse than that. It's absolutely horrible. Wait till you see what we're going to give it when we give our ratings. Now, look, I don't necessarily blame people like the programmers say, because sometimes it's all about deadlines. CBS could be telling the programmer, hey, we're giving you 1 week, 2 weeks to get this game out. We don't care what it looks like, just get it out.
Are you serious?
And seems that's what happened with Gorf on the 2600, because it looks like somebody wrote it up in a few days.
Bruh.
Now, I'd probably let that slide if it was on like the Odyssey, but that's not so hot as the Atari 2600 is. I still would have expected better than what came out on it. Now, on the Commodore Vic-20, it's very much several steps up, a lot better. And on the Commodore 64, I'd have to say it's the best version on all the home systems. Again, nothing tops the arcade machine itself, but I think the Commodore 64 is the best you're gonna get. Couple of traits with all the home systems, none of them have the voices.
Come
no
on
surprise.
now, dog.
And none of them have Galaxian stage. Because there was some kind of legal issue going on at the time between Bally Midway and CBS with Commodore, but for whatever the reason it was exactly, Google it up, I don't recall, top of my head, they were not allowed to include the Galaxians in any of the home versions. So that is inherent to all the systems. But I'd have to say the Commodore 64 kind of nailed it pretty close, where the Atari 2600, the polar opposite. There's a lot of bad games on the Atari, and there are bad games I like. Gorf is not one of them. So what do you say? Let's do a little demo. First, I'll bring up the worst, and that's the Atari 2600 version. Oh, it's depressing to watch. But then, heaven will open up, and the skies will lift, and we'll start to look a little better. We'll see indeed improved version with the Commodore Vic-20. And then let's take it one more step up to, as I said, I think the best we're going to find on the home systems, which would be the Commodore 64 version. Let's start with this 2600 version, because when you see it and comparing it to like the arcade images and things like that, it's depressing. It's truly depressing. And to think back in the days, my poor late grandfather must have spent God knows how much money on the stands trying to win this game for me down the seashore, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, you could have got a toaster instead, right? Would have done better off. Should put Gorf in the toaster, the 2600 version, that is. So what do you say? Let's start off, like I said, with the worst of the liverwurst, and that would be Gorf on the Atari 2600. Check this out. Alright, my friends, here it is. Gorf on the Atari 2600. Get ready. Whew.
The fuck?
Just like the arcade, no? Okay, let's bring out the old classic 2600 controller. I like the green screen there, just like Gorf, changing all those colors, just like the arcade. Alright, let's begin. Now, how come I can't move up and down, left and right only? Yeah, gotta love that. I'm supposed to be able to go up, down, left, right, but not here. Where is the shield? No shield at all. Sure, why bother putting that in there? Gorf! This is not Gorf. Why is the screen black? It's supposed to be blue. The arcade in every home system is blue. Gorf!
Holy Jesus.
What the hell? So the laser attack here. One set of bad dudes. Very easy too. Oh, look when I get killed. Wow, just turn that screen white, man. But I mean, this is pretty damn bad. Of course, no stars. Why should there be? It's the fault of our stars. Whoa, space warp? Not in this universe. Where's the lines? The lines are supposed to come out from the center. What are these bow ties coming at me? What the? How come when you shoot these guys, they don't disappear from the center? Not one dot has disappeared. What is that sound? Boop, boop, what the hell? Gorf! How could this be Gorf? This wouldn't even be Gorf if I'm drunk.
Huh?
The all-time worst version of Gorf. Like I said, I mean, maybe on the Odyssey 2 this would be about acceptable, but boop, boop, what the these sounds? What is that, the flagship?
Holy
Jesus! Look at this. You hit it, it doesn't break. Whoops, excuse me. The flagship doesn't break up when you hit the pieces, but of course I accidentally hit it and destroyed it. Where's the shield on the flagship?
Huh?
Oh my god, what garbage. Gorf! Oh, I can't play it anymore.
Listen to me, Chef Steve. I must admit, I definitely agree with you on this one. The Atari 2600 version of Gorf was a complete pile of rancid donkey shit. Perhaps even worse than that. I mean, damn, that was truly bad. Talk about 0% like the arcade. But calm down. Why don't you put on one of the better versions of Gorf that you have? The 2 Commodore versions, I believe.
Okay, my friends, okay. Comes the Commodore Vic-20 version of Gorf. Considerably better than the Atari version. Alright. Again, there's some things wrong with it. It's not, like I said, it's not quite the arcade version, but it is a millionfold better than the Atari 2600 release. Let's have a round here. At least we got the shields. At least the Gorfian robots are actually in there. The background's blue, although they did not need to put that red background that's in here. At least the shield is there.
The sounds are a bit harsh.
Player ship is a bit big. I always had a hang up with that. Why couldn't they make the player ship a little smaller? At least it has the motherships going across. Again, the Gorfian robots are in here. So definitely, the Vic-20 version, miles and kilometers above the 2600. We got 2 sets of bad dudes, and they're colored a little better, not just one single color, like the Atari 2600 version. Space warp, and I will tell you the lines are there. The dots are disappearing from the middle every time you hit them, as supposed to be. Now the lines aren't perfect because they look like an asterisk in a way, you know, the pattern. The Commodore 64 version definitely improves that. You'll see that shortly. Oh, I'm losing my touch here. Alright, the flagship. Here we go. Now this is a flagship. Here's the shield, flagship shield that I was talking about on the 2600 version. And when you hit the flagship, pieces break off. The Ataris did not. Plus, it's harder to hit. I think I hit the Atari one in 2 shots. This one's a little more challenging. The pieces break off, you can hit them. I know I suck. Alright, let's get it. There it is. Time for the best Commodore 64 version of Gorf. A lot smoother than the Vic-20. We don't have that red border around there, which I wish they didn't put that in on the Vic-20. I don't know why they did. Small Hall of Fame in there. Let's get playing. Alright, as you can see, a bit smoother. Graphics are better. The aliens have different colors. They look like the Space Invaders aliens. The shield blinks as it's supposed to in the arcade. It's kind of supposed to phase in and out. The player ship is a little big still, I'm not going to lie, but it's smaller than the Vic-20 version was. The Vic-20 version was a little too wide, I guess. Laser attack, again, got a few stars in there. Aliens have a little more, bad dudes have a little more detail to them. Not to mention the sounds are better, and the speed, the overall speed is
much better
than the Vic-20 version. Now look at the lines here coming out from the center. They're definitely in all different patterns. They don't have that asterisk look. Of course, the Ataris had nothing zilch on the 2600. Again, the lines. Alright, there's the Flagship. Similar with the Vic-20 though, you know, breaks up as the pieces come down, you can shoot the pieces. Next round, the Gorfian robots ride it. Commodore 64, definitely my all-time favorite version of Gorf. Aside from the arcade, of course. Alright, come on. Wow. There we go. Nicer explosion, too. There's the lines coming out. Gorf on the 64, definitely best of the home systems, I'd say. There we have it, my friends. There we have it. 3 versions of Gorf on the home systems. Gorf, G-O-R-F, Gorf, Gorf.
You serious?
Say that. Couldn't resist. Those 3 versions being
The fuck?
the Atari 2600 version. I mean, pure crap. But let me rate it. I give this version 1.5 chef hats. 1.5 chef hats for the Atari 2600 version of Gorf. They should not have even made this game. This should not have even come out on the 2600 because it was so bad. You get people's hopes up that you're getting something that's even slightly resembling the arcade machine. And it's not. It's a million miles away from it. Garbage! Anyway, to be mad thinking of the Atari version, how bad they made it. It didn't need to be that way. Commodore Vic-20 version. Now we're moving upwards. Moving up the trail with the Commodore Vic-20 version. A very fine version of Gorf. This I have to give 6.5 chef hats. 6.5 chef hats for the Commodore Vic-20 version of Gorf. Put that down nicely. The creme de la creme, the best version there is on the home systems has to be the Commodore 64 version of Gorf. 8.5 chef hats. That's right. 8.5 chef hats for the Commodore 64 version. Finest home version there is. For my friends, to mention this too, there are 2 other versions I know of out there that I've personally seen and played, or owned at one time, to be honest with you, was one, the ColecoVision version, and there was an Atari 5200 version. Granted, both are far, far better than the Atari 2600 version ever could hope to be. But that's Gorf, my friends, that's Gorf. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell your friends about Chef Steve's retro game rundown. If they're a classic gaming fan, they're gonna love this. They're gonna love this because we're gonna cover it all. We're gonna feel like you're in a time machine going back to the future, to the 80s. You don't need no flying DeLorean when Chef Steve's flying you around the land of retro gaming. Anyway, my friends, until the next video, certainly soon to come, I want you to always remember this. Keep on gaming!
Look, I beg you, save my sanity, don't encourage him to make more videos.